America, what are you thankful for in this season of Thanksgiving? Are you thankful that there are loving leaders who are looking out for our safety and shutting down states again? I'm not. I am thankful for freedom. I am thankful for the ability to decide for myself still. I'm thankful that my husband and I get to choose for our family what we feel is best. But that's slipping away, and let's not let it happen. There are 22 states going into lockdown again. The governor of New York State, one of those states, I know it's shocking, New York is shutting down again. He said this. He said, no, this is not life as usual. Accept it and realize it and deal with it. Now keep that in mind as we continue. He's telling you just to get over it. This is how it is. Nothing you can do about it. Yeah, there is. The New York City mayor, de Blasio, he is shutting down the country's largest school district because there are 3% of the kids that have tested positive. Would you like to know how many kids statewide, it means the entire state of New York, have died from COVID? You won't need any hands, you won't need any fingers, because the number is 0. That's according to their own stats. But he's shutting down the school district. Now, the Washington State governor, he sat there on the couch with his wife telling us that it's actually a loving act if you cancel your Thanksgiving and Christmas plans. How is that loving? How is it loving to cut yourself off from people you love and from people who love you and not fellowship, not get together? You know, my sister and I were talking, and we were recalling our college days when we would be going home for a holiday and we would be leaving behind people in our dorm who we knew weren't going to be able to go home. They were, you know, either they were international students and they couldn't go home, or people just couldn't afford to fly their kids home, and it was really sad leaving them behind. It was so sad knowing they were stuck there for the holiday. Universities are actually encouraging students to do that, to stay, to not go home. Okay, there's a whole nother, that's cutting them off from their family, that's cutting them off from people who they trust, who love them, and that's a whole nother issue. If students do go home, there are some colleges and universities encouraging them not to return. Just stay home for the rest of the year and finish your courses online. That's so ridiculous, so ridiculous. Also, think about the elderly, the grandparents. A lot of times there's only 1 or 2 times a year that everyone gets together as a family. And that's Thanksgiving and Christmas. There are so many grandparents who are looking forward to this time together. That's the one time everybody comes, and they're going to be deprived of that this year because of the ruling class. So I was reading a headline of an article, it's an opinion piece in the Boston Globe by John G. Turner, and here's what it said. Pilgrims would agree, cancel Thanksgiving. I thought, what in the world? Maybe John G. Turner of the Boston Globe, he needs to remember a little bit more about the Pilgrims. Okay, so in case you aren't familiar with the Pilgrims, they were people who were living in England, and they were worshiping in a certain way that they felt was right. They felt God was leading them to keep their group together, their congregation together, and worship God in a certain way. Well, the ruling class there didn't like it, and so they were being persecuted. They weren't pilgrims then, but the pilgrims living there, they were in lockdown basically. So they escaped and went to Holland, where life was more free. But the thing is, they realized that their kids were starting to adopt the ways of the people there rather than remembering their own heritage, what their own congregation felt was right before God. So they knew they had to do something. They sold everything they had, they scrimped and saved and pulled all their resources together, and they traveled across the ocean. It was a huge risk. They knew there was huge risk involved, but that huge risk was worth it if it meant they got to be free. Do you understand? They were so brave and courageous. When they were traveling across the ocean, who knows what could happen? There was no guarantee they were going to arrive safely, and once they did arrive, there was going to be no Hampton Inn with a wonderful breakfast in the morning. There was going to be not even a Motel 6 or even any kind of lodging prepared for them. They were going to have to do it all themselves. They were willing to take that risk. I want to show you something. There were 102 passengers on the Mayflower they came across, okay? While they were en route, one person died, one man died. When they were anchored off of Cape Cod, another 4 people died. So just between the voyage and arriving, there were 5 people that died. Out of 102, that's basically 5%. It's 4.9, but it's 5%. Okay? That's a 5% death rate just in that amount of time. Now let's look here at the United States. We have roughly 330 million people as our population. According to the CDC's cooked book numbers, it's 247,834 people that have died from COVID. That's according to the CDC's numbers. That is a death rate of 0.08%. Just to remind ourselves, this dollar bill represents 100%. This penny represents 1% because it takes 100 of these to make one of these. 0.08% would mean you take this penny and cut it into 100 equal-sized pieces and then take out 8 of those. 0.08%. That is the death rate here for the United States. The Pilgrims were looking at a 5% death rate. That is 62.5 times higher. John G. Turner, they would not agree to cancel Thanksgiving. They would say, keep your freedom, fight for it. It's worth it. Look what we did. They didn't stay in lockdown in England. They didn't stay in Holland. They risked so much to come have a free life. So much so that we are still, yes, I said still, celebrating them in 2020 here in the United States because of what they did. You know, going back to the quote from Governor Cuomo of New York, remember the accept it, realize it, and deal with it? There are dictators, there are rulers here in our country who are not abiding by their own rules, who are not abiding by their own statutes that they set for everybody else. I hope by now you have heard of Governor Gavin Newsom in California, who attended a birthday party in Napa County with people that were not in his immediate household. In the pictures that you can find online, they're not wearing masks, they're not socially distancing. It is like a normal birthday party, what everyone else would like to have had this entire summer, but didn't. Instead, they did these stupid drive-by birthday parties and stand outside someone's house and wave and sing them happy birthday. That's what the normal people did. But Gavin Newsom got to go to an actual normal birthday party. And afterwards, he apologizes, you know, because it's always easier to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission, right? So he apologizes, I shouldn't have done that. I chose to do it, and instead, you know, I shouldn't have done that. You know what's so interesting? My family and I were sitting on the couch watching him go through this whole thing, and one of my kids said, Mom, he just said he chose. He chose to do that. He had the ability to choose. That's just what everybody else wants. We want to be able to choose. If a child can see that, you should be able to also. There is a ruling class here. Ruling classes are not part of American Republic. They're part of socialism, communism. That's where the ruling class comes from. And there's a ruling class here in the United States. Okay? I've heard Newsom referred to as Mussolini, which is so true. That's what he is. He is a dictator. He makes rules for everybody else, but he doesn't have to follow them. While at that dinner, there were 2 other people there from the California Medical Association, high-ranking officials in that association. The same association that sends out things like hashtag stay home, hashtag wear a mask, hashtag but not for us because we're the ruling class. That's what that, folks, if you can't see that this has nothing to do with safety, if you can't see that by now, I don't know that you're ever going to see it. But you have to wake up. You have to wake up. Jim Jordan recently said something that is so true, and I hope you remember it. He said, don't cancel Thanksgiving, don't cancel Christmas, cancel lockdowns. Let's remember, the ruling class only has power if we relinquish it to them. This is over when we say it's over. We don't have to go along with what they want us to do. Our life is ours. Our liberty is ours. America, let's unmask our freedom. If you're ready to show the nation, if you're ready to show your state, if you're ready to show your town, if you're ready to show your neighborhood that you have unmasked your freedom, then get an Unmask Your Freedom t-shirt. We have white, we have red, we have adult sizes and kid sizes. We have Unmask Our Freedom yard signs. Now here's a good time to do that. Okay, so we have family that lives in California. They have been told that there's going to be officials going around the neighborhood counting cars in the different neighborhoods prior to the holidays and then during the holidays, so they can monitor how many people are there in the neighborhood and whether or not you are exceeding your limit of people over at your home. So that way they can write you up. That is so communist. That is straight out of the Chinese Communist Party handbook, Cuba, I mean, it's just ridiculous. Earlier this summer, there were people who were encouraged to tattle if you saw more than 10 people congregating. That's like a Stasi move of East Germany. Americans don't do that. If you're thinking about tattling on your neighbors, don't do that. Don't be un-American. Get a yard sign though. Put a yard sign out in front of your house so when those car counters come by, they can see that you have unmasked your freedom and they can just stand there and keep counting because you're going to have over as many people as you want to because you live in the United States. Get your gear, folks. We have business cards that are little invitations that when you see people and you're having conversations with them, you can hand to them and you can remind them, freedom is theirs. Please join us. Join us on Gab, Parler, Instagram, Twitter, while you still can with those two, YouTube, Rumble. We are out there. We would love to have you join us. Join the Unmask Our Freedom fighters. Fight for freedom. Fight for what is ours. America, let's unmask our freedom.